Hey, it's Bernadette. Welcome, welcome. Say hello when you get here. If you're watching the replay, then make sure that you type in replay so that I know that you're watching. And if you have any comments, of course, you can leave them in the comments. Today is Wednesday, the 24th. Took me a minute. Welcome, welcome. We're going to talk about what to do when you want to offer someone help or some helpful advice, but they don't want it. And I see this happening a lot with people. And then you guys end up talking to me or calling me and you're like, I just wanted to help. And they don't want your help. What do you do with all of that? Hi, Bernie. Hi, Melanie. Hi, Janine. Hi, Kim. Y'all are filing in. Welcome, welcome. So how many of you have had this situation come up where you really care about someone, whether it's a friend, a family member, a child, a partner, coworker, and you're like, well, I can see what they're doing wrong in their lives and I'm sure I can help them. And you try to offer them helpful advice and they don't want it, or they get angry and they get triggered. And they never asked you for that help, or they never asked you for that advice, but you go ahead and deliver it anyways. Much to your shock, they don't want it and they reject it, and then it causes friction. Say yes if you've done that. If you've stepped in and kind of asserted yourself where it wasn't invited, or you've had someone do that to you and you're like, yeah, it's not cool. If that's you, let me know. My mouth, my lips are so messed up right now. So I'm messing with my mouth a lot because I have medicine inside. I'm trying not to wash it away. So none of you guys have contended with that's here on the live stream? Don't give advice unless they ask. Good. Good. Perfect. And that is perfect. Because even as a psychic, one of the ethics I teach in my psychic class, when it comes to delivering readings or intuitions or, hits about people's lives, is you never offer anything without someone asking you. It's unethical and it scares people. My most recent was invited, not received in the intended manner. And that happens too. So how do you handle that? How do you handle that? Do you get upset? Do you take it personally? Do you back away? What do you do with all of that? Love to hear from you guys, how you're handling that situation. I put some new lip stuff on and then I had to put some medicine on. Now my lips are all messed up. Hi, Donna. So how did you handle that, Melanie, when it wasn't invited, or it was invited, but then it wasn't taken the right way? I have, yet I do my best to be respectful when offering advice. I do know that, Bernie. So one of the hardest things to do when you are awakened, when you are spiritual, when you are loving, when you're kind, when you're caring, is to just sit back and not offer help. When you see someone is struggling, right? You see somebody and you could help them, like you've been through it, or you've got some useful tip for them. And if they would listen, that it would help them, but they're not open to it. I'm sure all of you have gone through it when people have offered you their opinions, their advice, like you consider it opinions, they're considering it helpful advice, and you shut down and you reject it, right? And you get offended by it. Do my best not to get offended or butthurt, knowing it's ego that's reacting. Cool. Absolutely. Again, like I was saying, like in the job I have, when I have gifts that I can see through some things with people, right? Even with clients, like there are times when I know what road they're heading down, but I also know they're not open to what the truth of the path is that they're walking. And unless they specifically ask, I will not tell them. And especially, hey, Shania, hi. Especially when they're in a place of ego and resistance and they're super attached to things being a certain way. Even then, I will not correct them. on their choices, because everybody gets free will. Everybody gets to choose their own life path. Everybody gets to learn from their mistakes, which means everybody gets to make mistakes. And sometimes, and I don't really believe that there are mistakes. I believe that there are choices that take us down different paths. Some paths harder when it comes to lessons, other paths easier. And when you see an easier way for someone to be able to do something in their life and you care about them, of course you want to offer that, right? But not everybody's open to it. So rule of thumb, don't ever offer help or advice when it's not invited, okay? Which is hard. It's hard for those of you who are super, super giving. Hi, Sarah. I'll ask them if they want to talk, or sometimes even give some personal experience to hopefully open it up, but it's their choice. Yep. It is their choice. You know, as spiritual beings, those of us who have intuition or spiritual gifts, those of us who are just super heart-centered and empathic, always want to shift people's energy. Sometimes it's not up to you to shift it. Sometimes that energy is showing up in your life so that you will address the discomfort in you that's being felt because of someone else's energy, right? And it's really about learning how to pull your own energy back and being able to let people have the freedom to do whatever it is they choose to do, whether or not you think it's taking them down like a road of hell. Like, it's not up to you. So many don't want to change. And yes, it's hard. Hi, Ryder. Did I say your name right? I hope so. From Aya. Welcome. Hi, Valkyrie. It's hard, right? I'm not telling you guys this is easy, because I have kids, and I have grown kids, like a 17-year-old and I have a 27-year-old. And of course, you know, I have learned, especially recently, and I'm glad my daughter's corrected me, my oldest, because I'm always in this position during my day of helping people. That's what people call me. They call for help. I go into problem solving mode. I go into, you know, let me see what can work with this situation, right? I'm going to get to yours in just a sec, Melanie. And I will jump in when she starts telling me and venting about how hard of a day she's having with her fibromyalgia, with her chronic fatigue and her symptoms. And, you know, I go into investigation mode, detective mode. Let's see what we can find out about what's causing, you know, this flare up, and let me see if I can offer advice. It took my daughter saying, you know, don't treat me like one of your clients. And I was like shocked. What do you mean? I'm not. I care. But I was. And it's hard. It's hard even for me, right? Because I am used to people coming to me, not just to talk about it, but to actually look for solutions. And of course, I'm full of all kinds of solutions when it comes to natural health solutions, natural remedies, and you know, different things like that. I'm great at that stuff, but sometimes that's not wanted either. Just not in the frequency to accept truth. Cognitive dissonance, I just said I understand. She couldn't get it, but eventually she will desire to understand, and that I will guide her to the door and she can walk there when she's ready. And maybe she won't ever be ready, right? And that's the thing we have to accept too. Maybe they're not going to be ready. Maybe they'll never come to us. Maybe they need to hear it from somebody else. We think they need to hear it from us. How many of you are parents and you've said the same things to your children or your partners over and over and over again? And then someone else said it to them and they come back and go, so-and-so said blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I just told you that like a week ago. I've been telling you that and you've been ignoring me for that entire time. How many of you have gone through that? Whether it's with a partner or with your children, right? And for some reason, they can accept it from somebody else. Because like they're not mom. That's number one. But partners too, a lot of times will reject what the other partner says, not remembering we're on the same team. But someone else says it, or maybe it's the way they say it that actually opens up the receiver to hear it and receive the information and do something with it. And we cannot take it personally. Valkyrie's saying, I'm learning that today, that I can help those. I can't help those that don't want help. No, you can't. You can't help them. You can't advise them. You can't direct them. I'm not kidding you guys when I say, you know, when I do psychic readings, if I am doing a reading for someone and they're, especially relationship readings, those are tricky because sometimes people are really, really attached to what they want. And if I already feel them from the very beginning, they call me and they want what they want with this person and it's not good and I've tried to go in their back door and explain to them, this person's not healthy for you. This is a repeating pattern. And they just shut it down and keep asking the same question over and over again. I answer the question. I do not give any additional information, even if I see where it's going. Not up to me. It's up to them. You're the client. You're the caller. You're the customer, right? Customer's always right. And that's the way I handle that. I learned a long time ago to remove my judgment from it too, because I do believe people will change if they want to at the perfect time and with the perfect circumstances. And sometimes it's not going to come from me. I have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with that, right? We cannot engage and offer help when we were not invited. And if we were invited, or we thought we were invited, even if it's a clear invitation, and we begin to offer our help in the way that we know how, or the way that we feel like they need, and it's not received well, withdraw it. Withdraw it immediately, and don't, like Bernie said, get butthurt. Don't take it personally. It has nothing to do with you. I know that it's difficult to watch people suffer when you know there's a better way, but people will continue to suffer until they're done with it. People will stay in abusive relationships until they're done with it, right? I've done it in my own relationships. Like I've asked myself, is this good or is this not good? Is it time to leave? Is it, should I stay? And you aren't done until you're done. Like I've done readings for people, repeated readings about relationships, and the problems just keep repeating over and over again. And they'll say, is it over? And I'll look and it's like, it's not over because you're not done. Like it's not going to be over until you're done. That person will keep coming back. You will keep saying yes until you're finally done, and you're not done yet. And for some people, it takes a few more, unfortunately, abusive, dysfunctional acts for them to get it. And we can't judge that. We each need a certain energy to get something, right? We have to. Like, how many of you have received signs from the universe that you ignored until finally it slapped you in the face? You had no choice but to listen. And then you're like, man, I wish I had listened sooner. You think that you're the only person in your life that saw those signs arrive and you ignore them? No, we all do it. Understand they're not open to receive, like you said, until they're ready and until they're done. Yeah. And maybe they never are. That's the other thing is, like I said, you may not be the chosen deliverer of the message. Even if you can see what could potentially shift and change and heal this person, don't go there with them because you may not be the person that's meant to deliver the message. Instead, go into prayer, go into meditation, go into visualization, see them as whole, see them as healed, see them on the other side of it without your involvement. Other than that, quietly, right? Without praise, without acknowledgement. I've learned to set boundaries when offering help, yet stay on standby when the person is ready and done. And that's loving, right? It takes a lot to get to a place of I think, spiritual maturity and emotional maturity, to be able to disentangle ourselves from the dramas that other people take on and the lessons that they have to learn without wanting to jump in and save them, right? And if it's someone that you care about and it's interfering with your personal relationship with them because they're going through whatever it is they're going through, maybe a dysfunctional relationship, maybe health issues, who knows, you may be thinking, well, if they would just shift that, then our relationship would improve. Why can't I do something about that? Because it does involve me. It's not up to you. It's still entirely up to them. They have to shift and change it. The most loving, unconditionally loving thing you can do is work on loving them unconditionally. Work on, I love you without condition. I love you without judgment. I love you without you needing to get this right now. And I am able to do this dance with you from over here while you continue the mess over there. That's what you can do. And if you are doing readings for people, take note of that, like ethically, right? Don't step in and offer stuff if it wasn't invited, if it's not welcomed, and if it's not able to be received. Sometimes those of us who are readers and spiritual advisors, we have to know our gifts well enough, have our connection to spirit strong enough to know if someone can handle the whole enchilada Or do we need to spoon feed them? Do we need to give them little pieces for them to digest slowly? And some people take longer, right? I've worked with clients before where it's taken me months to get them to absorb just baby food of information until they're ready to, and really open and desperate enough to hear the truth. And then it's like Spirit will give me the green light and say, all right, we're done with baby food. Let's go to solids. And then it's time to deliver, And for me, I have certain symbols that I have worked out with my guides to know when I see information, when I see stuff, I know when to stop. I know when to just let the floodgates open and let them have it. A lot of times, because I when I get into spirit, I mean, you guys see it on live stream all the time, I start to talk really fast. And it's that way in my readings, right? So a lot of times it isn't even the words I'm saying that are hitting. It's the energetic frequency. It's the resonance of the truth that is hitting in their higher spirit, that later they'll come back to one or two things I said and put it together in such a way where they receive it, they hear it, and they're able to accept it. I've been stopped by spirit, so I don't give too much while doing a reading. Love how spirit does that. Absolutely, if we listen. But then, with a lot of these TV programs, psychic medium programs and whatnot, you see these psychics that walk up to people in the grocery store and they're like, I have a message from someone who's crossed over. I don't believe that's ethical. I've had clients call me after someone's done that to them and they'd been distraught for weeks and finally sought out a psychic that had some legitimacy to them to try and work through the shock of it. It's not good. It's not good to walk up to someone in a bar and start giving them a reading. That's not cool. You can unseat someone emotionally, mentally, and they didn't ask for it. They didn't invite it, and you intruded. Just because we can read people doesn't mean we should, right? Always has to be an invitation. But that's true with everything. We have this thing right now, this awareness coming to light about physical touch, uninvited physical touch. We know that that's a boundary. You don't touch someone if they're not inviting it, right? Physical touch, we get very offended if someone touches our bodies. Hi, Terry. And it wasn't invited. We feel an invasion of our privacy. We feel an invasion of our personal space and our physical body. We feel violated that someone felt it's okay to touch you when it's not invited. It's the same way on an emotional and a mental level. When someone, walks up to you in the grocery store and is like, hey, I've got a message for you from someone who's crossed over, right? As much as I hate when people want to come knocking on my door, and, try to save me with their religion, no. I feel like that too is an invasion of my privacy, and I don't go to your place, don't come to my place, right? That's why I love doing it on live stream. You guys can watch, you can turn it off, but I'm not popping up in your newsfeed unless you're already liking something of mine. But I don't go knocking on your door, right? Crazy to me, but it's the same thing. People will not receive what you have for them unless they've invited you. And you need to wait for that. You need to wait for the invitation. And if you feel any kind of hesitation in offering something, you're like, I don't know if you want to hear this, but if you have to say that, you don't need to give them that information, right? You wait for someone, even if it's your best friend, wait for them to ask you point blank, what do you honestly think about this? Then go for it, right? Go for it in the most loving way. But we cannot force help upon another. We can't, it's like with addiction, right? We can't help someone who's lost an addiction when they're not ready to give it up. Staging and intervention and all these other things do absolutely no good when they are not seeing a problem with the choices that they're making. You can't. It just makes things worse. And then those people will just run from you. They'll close you out of their lives. And now you've shut the door. I'm not telling you should enable them either. Can't do that, but you can pull back and just sit in a place of, pray for them, see good things for them, ask the universe to intervene, but it's not up to you to intervene. I see it too much happening in these spiritual communities on Facebook, like in the groups I watch, like someone will post something and they're like looking for support. And my daughter's done it in the Vibro groups and she tells me how ridiculous they are. And I watch it even in the juicing communities, right? Where like someone will post something and they're either looking for support or they're looking to encourage someone. And suddenly you have all these people jumping on this bandwagon of like, giving their personal opinion. And I don't know what it is about the world we live in right now, but everybody's got a huge opinion and wants to just deliver it. However, whenever, doesn't matter if it was invited or not. And we are called to a higher standard. Those of us who walk that path of higher self and higher purpose connected to source, we're called to a higher standard, right? Like Spirit Soul has told me, in the role that you play in this world, like you need to be above reproach. You cannot be in a position where, you are offending people and you are turning people off and you are jumping in when you're not invited, right? Don't like to be told what to do. Nobody likes to be told what to do, especially when it's coming from a supposed loved one that has their own agenda with telling you. Like, you'll receive it when you ask, but when you don't ask, it's shut down immediately. And it's so true in every area of life. So sometimes we just have to love people through the choices and the lessons that they're making. And a lot of people, the reason I think we're talking about this today and Spirit had me discuss this with you guys today is because a lot of people, almost everybody is going through some form of growth right now. Some are more asleep than others. Some are farther along on their path than others. But, we're all growing. Each and every one of us are going through our own next level of growth and shedding the old. And, it's not up to anybody else to point out where you should be on your path. Each of us are on our path, and some of us get stuck at certain places for a certain amount of time, sort of circling our tail because we are comfortable, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, we each reach the pinnacle of our growth when we're meant to, and all of us will get it when we cross over. The minute we die, game over here on earth, you'll get it. So we each, like the message I got back in Sedona in 2000 is the same message today. Like, every path leads to the same place. We're all going to die. We're all going to cross over. We're all going to have that point of revelation of what this whole thing was about for us individually when we cross over. It doesn't matter what happens to Tommy and Susie. It doesn't matter what Karen over there is doing. It doesn't matter what your ex is doing. What matters is, how are you handling your life and your walk, right? Are you being encouraging? Are you loving unconditionally? Can you handle life from a place of peace, love, and joy without interfering with other people's growth? And sometimes our help is actually interference, and it's judgment. Us thinking that that person needs our opinion in order to make more informed decisions. And it's just not true. And it's very egotistical to think that way, that, we know better for somebody else when we can't possibly. Like, we only see a shadow of the real person, and we only know so much about a person. Even if we know their whole life story and we've watched them walk their path, we don't really know how they're processing it because we can't get it in their heads, or we can't get into their heads. You'll need to listen to the whole thing. It's a good topic. It's a good reminder, especially now, because of everything going on this planet with all of this growth. It's super important that these simple things, these really simple things, we get and we remember. Walk your own path, work out your own life, your own growth. And don't tell me that. I mean, I've had people on these live streams, when I talk about ego, they're like, oh, I got rid of my ego. You can't get rid of your ego. It is a part of you. You can't just completely demolish it and destroy it. You will always have an ego. And when you can acknowledge that you will always have an ego, then you can stay humble and be in a place where you're constantly able to grow and be coachable. But the minute you think you've arrived, you're screwed. The minute I think I've arrived, I'm screwed, right? People who force fixing of others usually have unfinished, unattended works on themselves. That's absolutely true. A lot of times when we go to fix other people, or we attract relationships one after another, where they're fixer kind of projects, or we see all these things in them, we're like, I can fix it. I'll just love them enough and they'll want to fix it, and I'll guide them, I'll get them to counseling, whatever. It is an avoidance of dealing with your own issues, your own stuff, your own shadows. We go out there to work on other things out there so we can avoid working on what's in here, what's within our minds, our lives. Yeah. He sees what's going on, and she's never told me what to do. I will not tell any of you what to do. I can't. I'll tell you, go this way. This is what happens. Go that way. That's what happens. Continue forward on the path you're already on. This is where it's going to end up. You need to decide. I can't make your choices for you. One of the hardest things as a psychic, and I've been doing this now for almost 20 years professionally, is to have people try to make me responsible for their choices in their lives. And it's like, Mama's not going to do that for you. Wouldn't it be nice if I could have someone make every one of my choices and then I have someone to blame? But the reality is this: you need to make your own choices. I can tell you the outcomes, the energies, and whatnot of the choices that you have in front of you. I can open you up to the possibilities that you haven't even seen that are heading your way. But I can't choose for you. You have to choose for you. And honestly, I don't think there are any mistakes. I really want you guys to hear this. There's no mistakes. Each choice will lead you to a set of lessons and things that will make you grow, make you expand, no matter what the choice is. So those of you who are sitting there still beating yourself up from choices that you think were wrong in the past, I can go back to my 20s and say all kind of things about, I shouldn't have done this, really, that guilt, that lower vibrational shame, blame game is a tool of the ego, and it doesn't do anything but get you stuck. Not sure everyone's on a path of growth. Some folks are okay with not being deliberate with their development, often easy, identifiable. This is who I am. If you don't like it tough, I think we live in a society where many of us don't want to do the work of climbing the summit of self-development, prefer a helicopter ride to the top of the summit. That may be true. And it's none of our business. Honestly, what other people do, none of our business, because all of the contrast, right? Those who are growing, those who are not, those who are operating in the light, those who are not, all of it is a perfect balance. And it truly is not up to us. Every one of us will die. That's the laws of the universe. In physical form, third dimension, this body will pass away. You will pass over to the other side. Each one of us will arrive on the other side, do a life review. That is that, right? So one way or another, whether we do it with complete ignorance or we do it with focused intention and consciousness, you're going to still die at the end of this, right? Who's to say that you are right and someone who's not growing is wrong? Who's to say? Maybe they're new souls. Maybe they came here to play a while. Not up to us. You provide guidance and direction. You've never instructed specific choices, free will. Used to be in the fixing stage when younger. I can help, but not going to fix anyone. Good. So I hope that clears some of that up for all of you. I understand the struggle that we face on this planet right now of finding God in even those who are asleep, in finding the perfection of the infinite source energy in those who are not deliberate, who are choosing to be an ego. I get that it's difficult sometimes to see the God perfection in that, but in that place, when I see it playing out around me, in my clients, in the world, I am ever more grateful that I chose to wake up. I chose to do the work on myself. I chose to create my life consciously instead of in default mode where everything just sort of showed up. It makes me more grateful. And truly that contrast, if it were not there, if there were not another side to that coin where I could see where I could be walking, right? Versus where I am now, I wouldn't be as appreciative. I wouldn't really have much to celebrate in these wins when I've defeated another piece of my ego's control over me. Like I said, you can't get rid of the ego, but you can gain control over the voice of the ego so it's not controlling you. And that's the work that I love doing, because that's where then we put you in your place of power. Then you can manifest anything you want. Then you can walk in alignment with God. Then life just becomes this blessing. Even through hard circumstances, you can rise above all the negativity, deal with it in a positive way, and get through it with flying colors. Like, that's the life that I choose to live. I hope that those of you who've been on this path and ups and downs and, top of the mountain, slide back down, play a while, get back up, get to the top of the mountain. I hope that you guys see the blessing in all of that. Even with those who are around you in your life that are still choosing to play in ignorance and play in maybe victimhood, or play in addictions, or play in whatever they're choosing to play in. Like, it's okay that they're there. Stop making it be a thing. If you want to see them whole and healed, picture them whole and healed, but don't open your mouth. Like, that's just the rule of thumb, unless you're invited. All right. That's your lesson for today. Those of you on Patreon, I will see you in just a few minutes, probably like 5-10 minutes. Just give me a break because I got to put some more medicine on my mouth. And then I will come back and we will do our weekly forecast. Let's see what's coming up as we make our way through the end of this month, right up until this forecast for Patreon members. And if you're not a Patreon member, you can join. Just go to my website, click on videos, and it'll take you to my Patreon site, or go to Patreon, click on, or type in Bernadette Gold. This forecast is for tomorrow, the 25th, all the way through the new moon on the 31st. For those of you that did not know, we have a new moon on the 31st, which is a great time to close out the eclipse season and set some new intentions and set some new energies. I know a lot of people that I've been reading for lately are ending cycles, they're ending phases, and they're beginning something brand new. So for those of you who have been struggling, get ready for the 31st. Whatever you've let go of, and a lot of you have let go of a ton of stuff through the full moon eclipse, through the new moon eclipse at the beginning of the month. This second new moon in the month of July is the perfect time to let the new energy take hold and to set your intention for what you're letting go of and what you're walking into. All new. Like, seriously, it's going to be all new if you let it be. So choose wisely. You've got a week to plan ahead. Patreon members, I will see you soon.